alongside my peers Josua Perez, Stephanie Hama, and Tiffany Payne, are going to inform you about the long-lasting effects that poverty can have on a human being's physiology. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when someone says poverty? Is it a vivid picture of how people live in a third world country? Is the sound of someone begging for money? Well, have you ever wondered how the government defines the cutoff between an impoverished family or a regular low-income family, and how the government will aid these families? In order to define what it means to be poor, we will be turning to the article Understanding Poverty, a Social and Economic Enigma, Exploration through Qualitative Research Method, which was written by Samuddin Sheikh on 2018. This article talks about how poverty has posed an enormous challenge to many nations, the different types of poverty that can be found among different types of society, and finally, how people that are living in poverty in Pakistan see their situation and express their feelings on how to fix their current living status. There are many different ways to measure poverty. According to Samuddin Sheikh, for example, in Pakistan, a poverty line has been set to define the difference between poor and non-poor people, the cutoff line being $1. However, Sheikh expresses that the poverty line is defined to be a numerical benchmark and that is objectively chosen in different countries. The cutoff line doesn't work for every country. Some of them have the cutoff line is $2, while in other countries the cutoff line might be a median income. In the United States, the cutoff for poverty is an income of $11,770, while in Europe, the cutoff for poverty is determined by relative income poverty lines. Every country in the world has a different way of determining if their citizens are poor, which makes determining global poorness harder and makes coming up with a solution significantly harder. According to Samuddin Sheikh, 3 types of poorness can be found throughout the world. The first of them is absolute poverty. Sheikh states that absolute poverty is built on requirement of subsistence, includes the judgment of basic needs and measured with resources, food, quality and quantity of food, housing or shelter, and clothing, which are required to sustain physical and health efficiency and happy and healthy life. Mostly being those people that can get even the most basic needs. The next type of poverty that can be found in relative poverty. It is defined as the people that may face a problem in obtaining the resources such as running water, advanced home appliances, new medical facilities, higher education institution, holidays, enjoyment, vehicles for personal use, but for certain groups of population these facilities are considered to be luxuries of life. Sheikh states that the last kind of poverty is subjective poverty, and this relates to people comparing what they have to what people around their own, leading to a false sense of poorness. In order for the voice of the poor people in Pakistan to be heard, Sanore Salman Sheikh, along with their colleagues Samuddin Sheikh and Uruf Topor, interviewed different people about how they thought poverty might be alleviated in the country and how they define poverty. He divided the responses he gathered into 5 different themes, which were perception of poverty, unsatisfied physiological needs, societal injustice and brutality, poor governance, emotional pressures. Each theme explained how the citizens felt about what was happening, why was it happening, and how they might get out of this situation. According to Sheikh, the purpose of the paper was to develop a holistic understanding of lived experience of people living in poverty. The article How Sensitive is Regional Poverty Measurement in Latin America to the Value of the Poverty Line contributes to a methodological literature on the estimation of the international poverty lines for America based on the official poverty lines chosen by Latin American governments and commonly used in the public debate. The paper exploits a comprehensive data set of 86 up-to-date official streams and total urban poverty lines across 18 countries in Latin America, as well as the recently updated values of the National Purchasing Power Parity Conversation Factors for the 2011 International Comparison Program and a set of harmonized household surveys. Total poverty rates in Latin America increased when in the 2012 PPP values are used instead of the 2005 PPP values. While the extreme poverty rate is unaffected in general, country-specific poverty rankings remain relatively stable regardless of the values of the poverty line selected.
Low income and socio-economic status in early childhood and physical health in later childhood, a systematic review. A systematic search was completed on a number of studies based in industrialized countries that will explore the longitudinal effects of low income children in the first 5 years of life and physical health outcomes in young adulthood and adulthood. Extensive literature has been generated on the link between low income in early childhood and chronic health outcomes on adulthood. Braveman, a professor of family and community medicine, states that in order to solve the health disparities in adulthood, we must improve the living conditions of children. The studies measured poverty in the first 5 years of life and physical health outcomes between 6 and 18 years of age. Does low income exposure have an adverse effect on physical health in young adulthood? And if so, to what magnitude? The answer is yes. Early life exposure to low income is associated with a range of adverse physical health outcomes in young adulthood. 2 studies reported asthma as the outcome, another 2 reported activity limiting conditions as an outcome, and 3 studies found a significant association to ear and upper respiratory infections and dental caries. If adverse effects are shown, is there evidence of a link between duration of exposure and risk of effects? In a study, they found the odd ratios for chronic low income were higher than for transitory low income, which suggests that longer exposure during early childhood leads to higher odds of diagnosis of adverse physical health conditions. Addressing poverty and mental illness. Poverty is one of the most significant social determinants of mental and physical health, merging with other determinants such as education, race, ethnicity, gender, health, and access to health care, neighboring factors, etc. The mental effects of poverty are wide-ranging and reach across the lifespan. Poverty in childhood is linked to lower school achievement, higher rates of delinquency, depressive and anxiety disorders, and a higher rate of almost every psychiatric disorder in adulthood. Poverty in adulthood is linked to depressive disorders, anxiety disorder, psychological distress, and suicide. Poverty affects mental health through a variation of social and biological mechanisms acting at multiple levels, including individuals, families, local communities, and nations. Individual level mediators in the relationship between poverty and mental health include financial stress, poor prenatal health and birth outcomes, inadequate nutrition, and toxin exposure. Family level mediators include parental relationship stress, hostile and inconsistent parenting, and child abuse and neglect. To break the link between economic inequality, poverty, and mental health issues, providers must take a multi level prevention oriented approach to address upstream causes.
According to childhood poverty is associated with altered hippocampal function and visuospatial memory in adulthood. Written by Elizabeth R. Duval among her peers, childhood poverty is a risk factor for more mediocre cognitive performance during childhood and adulthood. To investigate neurobiological links between childhood poverty and adult memory performance, Duval used MRIs to map patterns of neural activation while the participants were aged 9 and followed through young adulthood to assess income and related factors related to poverty. Each one of the participants had different incomes revealed that are associations between item recognition, childhood income level, and hippocampal activation. Specifically, the association between hippocampal activation and recognition accuracy varied as a function of childhood poverty, with positive associations at higher income levels and negative associations at lower income levels. These results reveal that childhood poverty may have an memory performance after all. The article written by Nicole L. Hayar among other peers titled Association of Child Poverty, Brain Development, and Academic Achievement tries to correlate the level of wealth of the kids with their brain development and academic achievement. The importance of this research is because children living in poverty generally perform poorly in school, with markedly lower standardized test scores and lower educational attainment. The longer children live in poverty, the greater their academic deficits. These patterns persist to adulthood, contributing to lifetime reduced occupational attainment. Much like the previous article, the investigators mapped the brain. However, this time the investigators used complete sociodemographic and neuroimaging data. Their collection began in November 2001 and ended in August 2007. The results of the experiment show that poverty is tied to structural differences in several areas of the brain associated with school readiness skills, with the largest influence observed among children from the first.
According to the article, The Top 10 Solutions to Cut Poverty and Grow the Middle Class by Rebecca Valles, the Congress had the opportunity to cut poverty and expand the middle class. She believed that different policy choices can bring different outcomes. She acknowledged that there is nothing inevitable about poverty. We just need to build the political will to enact the policies that will increase economic security and expand opportunities. She gives examples on what the Congress can do to solve poverty. Some of them are create jobs, raise the minimum wage, increase the earned income tax credit for childless workers, support pay equality, provide paid leave and paid sick day, invest in affordable childcare and early education, expand Medicaid, reform the criminal justice system, and do not harm. The best pathway out of poverty is a well-paid job. The federal government should invest in job creation, such as rebuilding our infrastructure, developing renewable energy sources, renovating abandoned housing, and making other common sense investments that create jobs. When she talks about raising the minimum wage, she said that we'll leave more than 4 million Americans out of poverty. Increasing the earning income tax credit for childless workers is one of the nation's most effective anti-poverty tools. Is the earning income tax credit. It is also an investment that pays long term. Childless workers miss out the benefit that need to change. Support pay equality. Closing the gender wage gap will cut poverty in half for working women and their families. Providing paid leave and paid sick days. The United States is the only developmental country in the world without paying family and medical leave and paid sick days, making it very difficult for millions of American families to balance work and family without having to sacrifice needed income. Paid leave is an important anti-poverty policy, as having a child is one of the leading causes of economic hardship. Invest in affordable childcare and early education. The lack of affordable, high-quality childcare service is a major barrier to reaching the middle class. Boosting investment in Head Start and childcare and developmental block, as well as passing the Strong Start for American Children Act, which will invest in preschool, high-quality childcare for infant toddlers, and home visiting service for pregnant women and mothers with infants, will help more struggling families obtain the childcare they need in order to work and improve the future economic mobility of American children. When she talks about expanding Medicaid, it means more than just access to healthcare. It will free up limited household income for other basic needs, such as paying rent, putting food on the table.
That's all from us. Thank you for your time.